seeing today is a distraction. The armies you're seeing right now forming, collecting together, they are projections primarily of the unhealed self, where we have failed to realize and self actualize. Listen, the casualties that you're experiencing, whether the news outlets are telling you fully or not, is going to be about your authenticity. And I'm here to tell you very clearly what you already know, that World War III has been here. It has existed, honestly, a long time ago. But now that we have Neptune retrograde, Saturn retrograde, now that it's retrograding in these signs of Aries, it's affecting us as an individual. And this is what is starting to change, what's starting to shift. I spoke about this with Uranus and Gemini. It's only when your privilege is taken do you start to actually relate to all those who may have been the minority or the marginalized communities to face X, Y, and Z. And the thing is, war hurts everybody, okay? War affects everybody. Thank you for that thumbs up. And so this is something where we're going to realize right now, when you look at the shaman's truth behind World War III and the fact that it's spiritual, not just political, what up, Elijah? It's about shamans understanding how to walk between worlds, how to walk between truths, okay? And understand that in the spirit world, the war has never been about the territory we see being bombed, the bombs going off. Like I said, these are distractions. It's literally a war on your sovereignty. And as an Aries, Saturn and Aries, Neptune and Aries, both going retrograde, we're going to have time to reflect on this. We're going to have time to understand that, wow, like Aries is actually one of the most spiritual signs. Aries is one of the most occult signs. With Mars being its ruler, it shares that energy with Scorpio. Scorpio, we know this for what we don't realize is Aries is the warrior on the front line. What happens when you are at war? Okay? You deal with a lot of loss. When you talk about shamanism, what is one of the main pieces about shamanism? You deal with a lot of death. And it's death that brings us closer to the self, to self-actualization. Because when things die, when people die, when identities within yourself die, what happens? You start to slow down, you start to reflect. It's a shock to the system. Yeah? Think about anybody that has died in real life. You pause, you're shocked. You're like, oh my God, like, you start thinking, what do I need to do to live? Thank you for hitting those thumbs up. What do I need to do to feel alive? Thank you for hitting those thumbs up. What will I regret if I die today? Before achieving my dreams, before understanding what I want. This is the real World War III. And the fact that it's officially in Aries and all these retrogrades are going in Aries, this is what we're going to be facing. This is the I am self. This is the beat of the self, the drums of the self. Thank you for hitting those thumbs up. Starting to beat. It's not just global right now. It's internal. Aries is a very internal sign. Aries is actually very internally introspective. It's forced to, because again, when you're at war, things are happening. Bodies are dropping. Fears are rising. What if I do not ... What if I don't travel to that country I wanted to go to? What if I don't have the courage to ask that girl or that boy out? What if all this what if starts to happen, and it brings Aries very internal. So understand again, these bombs today are distractions, right? The armies are the projections of the unhealed self, the unhealed identity wounds. And this is what brings us into Chiron and Aries. A lot of what this World War III is about and how it has started way before this current moment. Okay, thank you for hitting those thumbs up and those likes, man. All right, and do feel free to comment anything in the chat, any questions you have. Okay, the fractured self, this is where we're reflecting a massive identity crisis on the global scale, on the collective. Because you're talking Neptune and Saturn. Saturn is interpersonal, which you have to deal with contractually speaking, okay, spiritual contracts with the self that you may have with other people, opposite of Aries being Libra, okay? Or the shadow of Aries, if you will. And it's about the identity crisis that we're going through on the massive collective. That's the Neptune part. So understand that before, what was the dates? World War II sparked in 1886. Okay, this was on Neptune Aries. We had the Civil War in America spark, right? And that was what? What was the timeline of that? 1941. Nope, in 1861. Honestly, forget the dates right now. It doesn't even matter. Okay. And so when we look at this is what's going on. Okay, there's individualization, there are ego battles that are happening on the global stage. There's this visibility trauma. So there is a movie back on Netflix. You can see it right now. It's called The Sum of All Fears. Fears, what Aries deal with. The Sum of All Fears. And it was with Russia, Ukraine, the United States, Israel. And Israel was transporting a bomb, a nuclear bomb, okay, World War II energies. And it got lost and whatever. People picked it up, and eventually the US got bombed with a nuclear bomb at our capital. And it was called The Sum of All Fears. And so the thing is, like the ruler of Russia at the time in the movie, what happened? He didn't actually bomb anything, but he feared looking weak, even though he was actually not a hard line type ruler that people love to believe Russia is. He was actually somebody very genius. He was smart. He didn't want war. He wanted revolution, he wanted change, right? But when his militias, who were not a part of his government, these factions decided we want to be separate from what our president of Russia or prime ambassador, whatever they call it, what happened? They decided to bomb against his will. So when it was on a global stage that Russia bombed X, Y, and Z, the president didn't want to fear that he didn't have control over his own people. And so he accepted blame. He said, yes, we did this, full throttle. We are the ones that dropped this bomb. And this is what I mean when I say visibility trauma. So if you see Trump on stage, you see all these medias and news, you have to understand that right now Uranus is going into Gemini. Okay, what, June 7th? And I have a video out there. So because of it, you have to understand that the media, it will continuously be spun. There will be shocks, there will be surprises in the media outlets about who are our allies, about these sudden realizations of allies being somebody that you didn't expect was somebody supporting you. You didn't expect a specific person, a specific group of people, a specific think tank, minds that are actually realizing we don't want war, at least not in the way like this. You're going to start realizing that these allies are going to be always have been in your corner, but you may not have realized it up front. So we have to understand, you have to look at these things, you have to look at history, and it's like, look, this was happening in like 1700s. This happened again in the 1800s, the 1900s. The thing is, it kept repeating. Ukraine, Russia, Israel, the United States, there's this repeat of history. So we have to understand when we look at this, what is really, really happening at a deeper level. Chiron and Aries is saying, look, we have to realize, when have we chose conformity over authenticity? Okay, one. When have we waged war rather than feeling what we feel? Okay, instead of feeling what we want to feel, which is something that Aries is a victim of. Aries does not take the time to always feel and introspect deeply. When it doesn't, this is when it starts creating war outside of itself. So think about all these world leaders. How many of us believe, raise your hand, that world leaders are deeply introspective and always taking time to emote and feel what they're feeling? No, they're always dealing with so much what's next, what's next, what's next. They got people in their face all day long telling them what to do, what to do, what to do, what to do. That is very easy to lose your identity. Easy to lose your very easy to conform to what everyone else is telling you to do. You got the Senate, you got the Congress, you got the people you're ruling in your nation, right? Like when you look at world wars, this is a lot of what happens when we have any country, any prime ambassador, weak leaders who don't actually make decisions for themselves and feel, what do I feel about this? I feel that this is wrong. I don't care what the stats say. I don't care what the history say. It feels like this is wrong. We need to take the time to do this. Is what Chiron Aries is talking about. And then this is when we start letting other people start to govern our beliefs. They govern our values. They govern literally even our physical bodies. They govern our magical abilities. And when we allow this to happen, okay, this is when the World War III type energies start to happen. We just allow other people to dictate what we think and how we feel. And we don't take the time to introspect. But Saturn in Aries says, look, it's going to take spiritual discipline during retrograde to introspect on your gifts, on your identity, on your wounds. When do you wage war because you're unwilling to feel? Okay, when do you wage war because you're unwilling to accept this visibility trauma that we're facing as a collective, where I don't want to seem weak, so I need to do what feels and looks powerful. Not is powerful, but what looks powerful. All right, and so then we look at Uranus and Gemini. This is an information breakdown. It's a collapse of foundations when it comes to media, language, tech, thought, group pod mind, alliances. Okay, there's a collapse of the mental construct that's going to be happening right now that literally no longer serve us. But in order for this to happen, we have to allow a little bit of chaos, a little bit of destruction. There's a fragmentation of false identities because all of this energy, once Uranus is Gemini, is going to be sextile. And so this fragmentation, this collapse of the false self, of the false need to feel safe, of the false self of I need to move and operate in a survival mindset. These are the things that create this World War III that is literally spiritual. It is not political. Thank you for hitting those thumbs up. And during Uranus and Gemini, part of this whole World War III concept, you will see a rebellion against the ancestral as well as the societal programs, because that's what Gemini partially represents, the societies and the immediate environment and how it influences our thought. Again, making World War III spiritual, not political. At bare minimum, not just political. Okay, thank you for that thumbs up. And so the war is not just out there that you're seeing on the media and the news. You got to be careful. This is part of the distraction. We all know this at this day and age. And many people are waking up and realizing, like, I can't really trust the news. Like, let's be real. So we have to realize that it's in here. When we start to see that, that's when things start to change. That's when we realize that the true war is literally spirit versus ego. Aries is one of the representation of ego as well as one of the representation of spirit. Aries is literally both. Okay? But the thing is, Aries is more spirit than its ego. Leo is a little more ego with consciousness. Ego, but completely like a baby. It's super naive, where it can make mistakes, but it's naive, right? Very different than Leo making conscious choices to choose, blah, blah, blah. But Aries is more spirit. So the thing is, we're not preparing for World War III. We already are in it. There's this global spiritual war that has already existed. It's been existed, but the enemy is not another nation. This is what we must understand, right? It is the unintegrated masculine which is wounded because Neptune and Aries, Saturn and Aries, both Neptune retrograde, Saturn retrograde. It is this Chiron is already in Aries, been there. It is this unintegrated masculine, okay, that has been fragmented, that fights for dominance, but won't sit with the shame. So it's like when you have any kind of person making big decisions on a global stage, but they're unwilling to realize and sit with their shame. Where have I experienced shame? Where have I felt like a bad person for doing something? It actually creates a very bad leader, right? Like it creates a very fragmented nation, a very fragmented system, a very fragmented outlook, as well as speech of what we decide to put out there for the people, right? So it also, now we have to understand that the spirit versus ego war that's happening right now is the wounded feminine on a different level than the wounded masculine or the unintegrated masculine. And this is one who partially continues to overgive. I don't know if this is too low. So it's one that continues to overgive, one that feels like being nice and it feels like that compassion is just to give, okay? When you overgive, but you don't even feel worthy of receiving, this is the real key behind the feminine. You don't feel worthy of receiving, and so you give out of a place of insecurity. This is something that will always create a disbalance. Okay? And then there's the next part of spiritual bypassing that we see happening. And you see this happening on the globe where we are avoiding conflict. We're choosing false harmonies instead of actually alchemizing. Okay? The things that we are avoiding, the things that we're afraid of, the parts of us that feel rejected. Thank you for hitting the thumbs up. So when you look at it, the shamanic soldier in this whole war, with this whole spiritual war, when we talk about World War III, and the archetype of the shamanic soldier says something like, peace is not the absence of war. Okay? It's the presence of self-sovereignty. And that's Aries again. Neptune and Aries, Saturn and Aries. So in order to love oneself, we have to face within the collective delusion. This is Neptune and Aries. The self has to face within the collective delusion. This is Aries. That loving yourself is a literal revolutionary act. And it's like you have to question, what does it mean to love yourself? In a world that does not really prioritize these internal developments. Okay? The world doesn't prioritize this at a global, at a collective scale. Instead, they want you to keep consuming. Instead, they want you to stay blind. That's the real war. Instead, they want you to buy these distractions of war. They want you to buy these distractions of taxes and inflation. They want you to buy these, because Aries is representing everything to do with survival. So think about it. How high is your rent right now? How high has going to the grocery store become? How expensive is it to just buy food? How many jobs do you need to have to feel like you need to survive? How many people are outside of the mindset of survival and they're nowhere close to thinking about thriving? And this is why you see a lot of people deciding to leave the United States. Because they're like, look, like if I can continue to try to make the US dollar or the European dollar and do a little global arbitrage to go live in Mexico, in Thailand, in Colombia, so I could try to stretch my dollar so I can leave this survival mindset, because this isn't life. I don't even have time to paint. I don't have time to meditate. I gotta go to work. This is the real war. This is the real war on your spirit, making you feel like you're so deep in survival mode that you can't do anything creative. You can't take the time to take a nap at 11 o'clock in the morning, but you need it. You need to take a nap after you wake up at 10 o'clock. You need it because you feel drained. Your nervous system is completely racked up. So here's the call. Here's the shaman's call for the spiritual war 3, okay? It's understanding that this is a reminder that war is not just destruction, right? It is a critical moment for transformation. As you hit the thumbs up, thank you for those likes buttons. I see you. I see you with the hearts in the chat. It's a critical moment. Understand that the real battlefield is tending to your nervous system, not feeling like you're always like, and you got to drink a coffee every 5 seconds just to sustain, just to wake up. Wake up. Your nervous system is asking you to speak the truth. This is the real shaman's call to action on the war on your spirit and the war on self-sovereignty. Okay? Your throat chakra is saying when you stay silent to be accepted, that's not true acceptance. Again, it is this external acceptance. How many people do you see stay quiet when they see something wrong happens? Look, I tell you, and I promise you, Aries is not that person. And I didn't understand this when I was growing up. Like, I used to fight for people growing up. When I'd see a girl getting picked on, I'm fighting her battle. I see a dude getting picked on, I'm fighting his battle. I'm seeing a girl go through a physical abuse with her boyfriend, and I ain't got nothing to do with it. I'm fighting her battle. Right? Like, I can't tell you how many other people I fought for. But again, this is, again, outside of self. How many battles did I fight within? Right? And this is something, this is just a question. It's a rhetorical question in a moment. So the shamanic action, understanding within your solar plexus, when you betray your intuition to stay safe, this is the real war. This is the real destruction. Stop betraying what you intuitively know you need to do because you believe that you're doing what's safe. Okay? Because betraying your intuition is not safe. Thank you for hitting that thumbs up. It don't feel safe. Does it feel safe to betray yourself? Does it feel safe to stay in survival mode? Does it feel safe to let your nervous system just... No. So when you look at the message of spirit, it's saying something like this. Do not fear the flames, okay? You are the fire. Don't fear the flames. You are the fire. This is Saturn Aries. This is Neptune Aries Retrograde. This is Chiron Aries, okay? The wars you see are symptoms of forgotten medicine. Forgotten medicine. So you have to question for yourself again, what is the forgotten medicine? I'm telling you right now, taking care of yourself, internalize, being aware of what is internally demanding respect, to respect yourself. I see you. Thank you for joining. We got a new member in the Astro Support. I really appreciate y'all. Thank you for hitting the thumbs up and the likes button. I really appreciate that. Okay? To return to your sovereignty is to respect yourself. And so we think about entrepreneurship, for example. People don't become entrepreneurs because it's fun because life is easy this way. It's like people become entrepreneurs because it is sovereignty, right? You don't make more money the day you become an entrepreneur. Instead, you start using your money for your sovereignty. You don't make more money, you have to use it literally to create a more sovereign network, a more sovereign living, more peace with your nervous system, to take those naps. Like, you don't become an entrepreneur because you want to make more money. Not up front. Because I promise you, those first 5 years, you lose money over and over and over and over and over again. And I've seen this in my own life. And I'm at the point where I don't even know, maybe it's like 8 or 9 years since I've been an entrepreneur. And I promise you, you don't make money up front. I promise you. At the end of the day, what you're really doing, you're creating a sense of sovereignty. You're allowing yourself to try and experiment a new way of living. Because in those first years, you still maintain the survival mindset that you probably left that made you feel like you wanted to become an entrepreneur in the first place. So I can promise you, it ain't it. Now, what the message from Spirit is to hold the line. Hold the line of your truth. What is your truth? Have you taken the time to even slow down enough to realize what's my personal and individual truth? Or are you still fighting the battles and the wars of another person? When I worked in the US, there was a point when I realized, I'm making other people's dreams come true. I got so much energy. I got so much passion. I got so much fire. But I'm not making my dreams come true. I'm not making my life easier. I'm making other people's lives easier. And I'm making other people thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. There was this point when I was just in charge of some stuff, blah, blah, blah. And I started seeing the numbers. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, I just took us tens of thousands of dollars out of debt in 6 months. And I'm thinking, I'm like, wow, like I had that much power. Now understand up front, I didn't have the money to do this, right? Like there was an investor involved, but I'm looking at it and I'm realizing, damn, if I had this kind of money that this investor had, this is what I'm able to do with this type of investment, right? And I was like, what if I do this for myself? Okay, so the message from Spirit is hold the line, hold the truth, okay? Don't engage in every battle that you're invited to. And it's something that Aries must learn. What's up, James Dale? Thank you for becoming a new member. What's up, Taco? Received a gift. Membership by Divine Rights. Oh, that's so kind. I didn't even know that can happen. Sent one Ayurveda Shaman gift. That's so cool. That is love. Thank you. Thank you for giving her this gift. That's amazing. I didn't even know that was happening. This is so kind. This makes my heart so happy for you. Wow, that is just incredible. I thank y'all. I thank you for that, Divine Rights. I'm speechless right now. Like, may God send your heart tremendous blessings, an upliftment of your gifts, okay? Your shamanic gifts, your gifts of the priestess heart. And so, I just feel so like, oh my God, I don't even know. So when I look at, I just hope, I know you'll be blessed, okay? Wow, that's just incredible. Incredible. And for some reason, it doesn't let me see everybody's comments. But let me make sure, just somebody say anything. If you're watching this, comment something or anything. Because I feel like it doesn't always let me see the comments. Sometimes it'd be restricting certain comments. I don't understand entirely. But let me comment on here. Let me see if I can see. And ask any questions. So the thing is, don't engage in every battle that you're invited to. This is what it means to be a true warrior. You talk about Aries. The real war is understanding how to nurture your garden. Okay, Aries is a Martian rule energy, and Mars was first understood and known as a farmer, not a warrior. So it's about learning how to be the gardener in the war. I take this back. Excuse me. It's about learning how to be the warrior in the garden. Okay, meaning you have the skills, you can fight. You can defend yourself. Thank you, Elijah. I see you. Thank you, Divine Rights. Okay, I see comments coming through. About being the warrior in the garden. Okay? And not to be the gardener in the war. You do not want to be the gardener in the war. Because your skills are not necessary or useful. You want to be the warrior who has the skills, who has the necessary assets, who has the abilities, who has the talents, the skills of sovereignty and etc., of self-respect and etc. But you choose to walk and live in the garden, meaning, look, I have these skills and abilities, but I don't want to fight. Because fighting that war outside myself, that's not the battle. All right. So the thing with that is to say, do not engage in every battle you're invited to. Now, some wars dissolve, and a lot of wars will dissolve when you remember who you are at a spirit level. Most wars completely dissipate. This is the dissolving of Neptune and Aries. Hello, this is what a lot of people collectively will be going through. They realize that I don't need to fight this war, because when I remember who I am, and if you need help and support with that, you can come get an Akashic record with me. As a service on my website, it exists, it's out there. Come get an Akashic record with me. And I've had to do this for myself, and I've had this done for me before I remember, oh yeah, like I could do my own Akashic records. You want to come to the retreat and you want to learn how to do your own Akashic records, you want to go to the mentorship, that's one thing I added, teaching how to do your own Akashic records. I had to come back and remember for myself. And before I remember this, guess what? I used to fight a lot of wars outside of myself. I used to go to war even on lives. And I had to take a couple years off and stop doing lives. I had to stop doing lives because I was fighting wars that were there, which is not, I wasn't in tune with myself. Okay. Thank you for hitting the thumbs up and likes button. Okay, let's get into it. So, the great war of the willpower, the great war of the will of the spirit. Neptune in Aries, Saturn in Aries, Neptune and Saturn retrograde in Aries, okay, says something like this. It's the spell, it's the soldier, and it's the self. Okay, it's the spell, it's the soldier, and it's the self. What does that mean? July 4th, Neptune retrograde begins. July 7th, Uranus and Gemini will start. It's going to go forward. And then we have July 13th, Saturn retrograde will begin. Okay, so what's this mean? We also have wounded Chiron in Aries, where the thing is, no one talks about these things because it's just too primal. This is what it is. Like people may not fully respect, but the thing is, like, Aries is so in its own world that it's not really looking for respect. It's like it just earns respect because it is naively walking in its own path, right? But the thing is, no one talks about it because it's too primal. I don't know who I am unless I am in a battle, unless I am at war, until I am on the offensive. This is what happened with a lot of people. I don't know who I am unless I'm battling. I see this a lot in Black culture as well. Like, you know, I hate to say it, but like African Americans, like they just be fighting people. They just be yelling. They just be loud, and they don't understand sometimes. And I've seen this in my family, and I've seen this with myself, that unless I'm battling somebody, unless I'm on the offensive, I don't know how to really feel safe. I don't really know how to operate, you know. And this, you see this heightened either when we come into money, because what does it do? It exacerbates what you already are, what you already desire. When we drink alcohol, because what does it do? It flames on that ego. It makes you feel a little more courage, the liquid courage, right? And I'm not going to say it's just Black culture. Let's be honest. But I am from African American culture, so I can speak about it from a personal standpoint. So I don't know who I am unless I'm in battle. And people don't talk about this because it's too primal. Now, the thing is, with Chiron and Aries, the wound of the soul is that which was forged in fire, but it is never taught in peace. So who teaches you peace? When you're in grade school, you don't learn peace. You have to remember peace. You have to achieve peace. Okay? You're not taught peace. They don't have a peace class in university. Right? They don't teach you Buddhism. They don't teach you Taoism, non-action. Not at least in the Western society, right? Maybe if you grow up in Asia. But that's why when I went to Asia, like, it's a natural peace that's happening. So this is the thing. We're not taught that. Now, Chiron Aries is partially representing this soul fracture that we experience at birth. So Divine Rights, you're in this chat. She's one of the main ones where she could tell you when you're born, you're automatically duplicated. Right? So when you get a bill in the mail, your name will be in all capitalized letters. So it'll say Pernell and my full governmental name, all in capitalized letters. So they are billing my duplicated self. It will never say it with a capital P and then a lowercase e, a lowercase r, a lowercase, because that is not a taxable replicant of myself, right? You can't tax me, but you could tax my duplicated self at birth. So the soul is already fragmented at the soul level at birth. And again, go check out Divine Right. She's helping people when it comes to building and creating a trust so that you can create a trust for different modalities of security as well as wealth, generally speaking. So Divine Rights, if you have any insight for them you want to give, drop it in the chat. Okay, so now what's next? I need water. So the moment we reincarnate, the thing is we forget our identity because partially because we're already duplicated at birth, but more than that, because they're not teaching you how to operate at the soul level. They're not teaching you how to live in peace. Okay? Next, it rules this visibility trauma. So what happens with a baby, right? Aries is 0 to 2 years old in human years. What happens with a baby? Okay? A lot of times, parents aren't ready to parent. So a parent or a person has a baby and they're not ready. They don't know how to raise a kid. Why? Well, there's no real manual for such a thing, right? Like you don't really get a manual. You have a kid and they don't tell you how to birth and raise that child. And maybe you read a book. Maybe you ask your grandma, right? But at the end of the day, like there's a lot of fear when it comes to how do I raise this child? Okay, now what happens with this? There's a visibility trauma that's formed at birth in the very early years, okay? And here's what it looks like. When you have the fear of being too much, right? Because a baby being natural, they want to cry and one of your parents tell you. Eventually, they're okay. And then they get 15 sleepless nights. And you're waking them up at 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning, 1 in the morning. And then they're just like, ugh. And you're not feeling seen. So this happening very early. It's very difficult to parent, okay, without ridiculing your child as a baby, without telling them to shut up, without begging them to be quiet, okay? There's this fear of being too loud. There's fear of being too strange because the baby decides to do some magic, and that may be the form of knocking over a candle, but they decide they burn your cloth. And what they really were doing, they were burning the emotional energy that you had in that piece of cloth and that piece of clothing. Because that gift or that clothes, Taurus, brings you a thought. Maybe it was from your ex-boyfriend. Maybe it's from your ex-girlfriend. They gave you this shirt. And the baby burns that. Because the baby understands this is bad energy. But the parent just gets mad at the child. Right? And then the baby, for being strange, practicing magic through fire ritual, the baby's not being too much. So this is like, whether you realize it or not, it seems so crazy, it seems so simple, but there's a visibility trauma. The baby doesn't feel seen because the baby helped the mom, the baby helped the parent, burning away those old memories and emotions stuck in that piece of clothing that somebody negative gave them. Oh, I'm getting a call. Have to decline that call. Thank you for commenting that, Divine Rights. I see you. Tacos, spiritual tacos. You in the chat? Let me know if you're in the chat. I'm curious. Now, more. Next, the fear of being nothing, right? If we're not proving ourselves, this is the visibility trauma that happens. The fear of being nothing. Like if I don't prove myself, this is what happens with the wounds with Aries. And I've seen this with myself. I was born in Aries, right? I've seen this with myself. I was very unaware of when in the stages of my life did I try to prove myself in relationships and love, okay? With father figures, not just my dad, but father figures, right? Like trying to prove myself. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is this visibility trauma. So we look at World War III, right? What's happening with all these world leaders? They're trying to prove themselves, that they're strong, that they're able. The times that they weren't seen, the times they weren't heard, the times that they felt strange, or somebody told them they were strange, they're trying to prove themselves. And when you try to prove yourself, but it's not necessary, what happens? You get an unnecessary result, right? You go show power, you bomb somebody, you want to nuke somebody, you want to test your strength against the rest of the world. You want to show that you are a capable leader, that you have dominance, that you can dominate. You have this war outside yourself because you don't have any peace within you. So the ego wound that cannot rest unless it is fighting or unless it is fleeing. What is this? Fight or flight. What is this? Adrenaline. Who has adrenaline? Aries. Aries is a sign of adrenaline, fight or flight. So it's not just about fighting, it's about running away. So when we run away from our shame, when we run away, when we feel rejected, okay, for me being too strange, me being too loud, me being too much, I run away. I feel rejected. This is Chiron Aries. These are these wounds. All right, so let's move into Neptune retrograde in Aries. Thank you for hitting the thumbs up and likes button. So the thing is, Neptune in Pisces was hiding a lot, okay? Hiding behind our dreams, hiding behind our delusions, okay? But Aries is about dissolving the identity that hides, dissolving the identity who lives in survival mode, letting it go. I give you a quick tip. Today, you want to dissolve your identity, think about this and wash your hair. Or think about this and get a haircut. Today, I just cut my hair. I just cut my hair myself. I myself, Aries, cut my hair. Cut your hair. Why? I had dreams. What was happening in my dreams? I'm going to leave a lot of it out, but there were storms, there were bombs, there were houses blowing up. The identity, the internal world, the way in which I used to nourish myself, right? The way in which I used to nourish myself didn't work. It doesn't work for who I am now. I need a lot more peace. I need a lot more time to recover after a live session like this. I need a lot more time to recover after doing membership, that I'm running a membership, after I'm doing a Akashic record reading for somebody, after I'm running a retreat. I started nourishing myself with water, oceans, rest, taking naps at 10 o'clock in the morning, drinking less coffee, spacing my coffee out at least every 3 days in between. This rest, this nourishment. So Neptune Aries wants us to embrace the shamanic illusion, okay, and dissolve our identity. So cut your hair, wash your hair, condition your hair, okay? Anything with your face, shave, shape your face, your lineup, your beard, whatever it is. Put rose water, calm, gentle rose water on your face, okay? Emotional freedom tapping. Adding meridian points, one at the top of your head. Aries, 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 Aries. If you want to do the things, come join our membership and we'll be in my shamanic roundtable. We'll do these things regularly, because it takes a regular, consistent practice within these spiritual themes as spiritual resolutions and nourishment. You can't just do it today on the live, but it helps. You got to start somewhere. So this retrograde Aries, Neptune retrograde Aries, is going to rip off the mask. Bam! The mask of false confidence, the mask of false sovereignty, thinking you're free, but you're not. The mask of spiritual bypassing, okay? Spiritual bypassing disguised as, you're going to love this, love and light. Structure and consistency is key. Absolutely. That's why I say again, come join the Shaman's Roundtable. And at least twice a month, you will get this stuff done live. You will get meditations. You will get breath work. You will have new rituals, magic spells, etc., etc. And I teach a lot more stuff on screen. You'll get PDFs on the follow-up. You'll get so much. It's ridiculous. Now, next, Neptune in Aries is saying, look, here is the deeper occult truth, right? Neptune in Aries is not just confusion. It is literally initiation. Initiation, fire, cardinal sign, Aries, cardinal energy, moving forward from what we dissolved with Neptune and Pisces. It is the mystical warrior archetype. Aries, I tell you again, is literally the most spiritual sign in the physical real world. Why? Because Pisces is literally the most magical and mystical, yes? But this happening in the realms that cannot be seen, cannot be touched. What happens with Aries, the first physical embodiment of spirit. It's literally the Godhead coming through the womb and activating in the physical realm, all right? So it's the mystical warrior, the one who chooses solitude over noise. Think about how sensitive a baby is. I was eating next to a kid yesterday, and the sirens, and it's funny because I do this myself, and the sirens, the ambulance rolled by us, and the kid walked by us, and he was going like this. And it's funny because I do the same thing. I was eating dinner with somebody the other day, and the music was on, and there were people who were talking Spanish. I was at a pool party actually. I was at a pool party and I was talking Spanish, and I was like, man, this is just so much. Like, and so the side of the music that the speaker was, I went like this. And so I listened only with this left ear, and I was trying to quiet the noise of this music. I was like, God damn, this music is just so loud. It's making it so hard for me to focus and concentrate on what these people are saying. And I'm like talking to them in Spanish, and I'm like, man, it's already enough to talk in Spanish in the silence, like, and I got to do with this music. So again, the Aries Neptune is very sensitive. It's an energy. I feel so much better doing this as I'm talking to you right now. I just feel so much more in tune with myself. Actually, it's ironic. So the one who chooses silence over noise. This is Neptune and Aries in retrograde. So choose silence more consciously, more frequently on a regular basis. Okay. Now understand that your spiritual responsibility is more important. This is Neptune and Aries. How you're becoming responsible, because Aries is actually it's a sign that it needs to be responsible, right? Like, because it is a warrior, and when you're at war, there are a lot of crunch time decisions that have to be made on the battlefield, right? So it's like, you know, you're usually in danger somehow, some way. So it's like you have to survive. You have to literally live for the next moment, and it's always in the present moment, in this now moment, right? So there's a big responsibility that comes when you are somebody who has a weapon on your hip. You have a gun, you have a bazooka, you have a, you know, energetically, even if you don't have these weapons physically in the physical world, like, you have to understand your voice is a weapon. What you say, what you speak, it's a weapon. Your thoughts are a weapon. What you think, how you think, it's a weapon. Okay, so we have to understand we have these weapons. We have to become aware of them, right? Like, you have to see through the realms, and that requires a lot of spiritual responsibility over performing. You have to understand with your weapons, you need to understand you can't just perform these weapons and gain attention because of your visibility traumas, because you didn't feel seen when you were a baby, because you didn't feel seen, or because you felt too much, because you felt too strange. You have to be very careful with these visibility traumas, and instead choose spiritual responsibility. Now, next we have ritual over rebellion. And Divine Right spoke about this in the chat. Structure and consistency are key. You need ritual over rebellion. Don't just rebel. Okay? Choose a conscious path. Next, we have Saturn and Aries, and this is Saturnalia, right? This is the devil card in tarot. This is the mirror of Saturn. And you're talking Masons. I gotta urinate. Man, excuse me, y'all. I'm gonna have to use the bathroom. Give me a moment. I'm gonna come back and talk about Saturn and Aries. I gotta go release these demons. All right. Thank you for your patience. Okay, here we go. I'm back. So, what we got happening here? We got the devil card. We got Saturnalia. We got the mirror of Saturn. Saturn retrograde in Aries demands that we become disciplined magicians. Okay, disciplined magicians. Disciplined magicians. Like I said, Aries is one of the most magical signs. But you know what planet is one of the most magical planets? Saturn. You know why? Because it is an isolated planet. You know what happens in isolation? Internal development. This is why Aquarius is so genius. This is why Aquarius and Capricorn, they're really, really smart people. They're very occult magicians. They spend a lot of time in isolation, okay? Whether it's just because, like, for Capricorn, they're at the top and nobody, right? It takes a lot to be the mountain goat at the top. Thank you, because I had to realize where I was rebelling. I am choosing the ritual over rebellion today. Ooh, what a confirmation. I am choosing ritual over rebellion. So the thing is, they're disciplined magicians. They're not spellcasters of vanity. And this is one of the things I really like about Aries, right? Like, Aries is not a very vain sign. There's a lot of projections that people put on them, right? Because the sun rules the 5th house of Aries, which is what? Leo. So it's what we shine light on. People like to think that Aries are these vain creatures sometimes, but what they're not realizing is it's a projection. And so when you get somebody and you meet somebody who's being real to the core, it reminds you where you're not being real. Ouch. And so the thing is, Saturn Aries is not a spellcaster of vanity, right? It is a builder of reality. And this is Saturn, which builds. Aries is reality. It takes realistic, real life, everyday actions in authenticity, unless there's some negative affliction happening, right? So think about when you think Saturn and Aries, think love. I bless my water with love and grace and compassion and peace. Wow, as I felt peace, the sun went down a little bit. You saw that? That's beautiful. So think Mason, Saturnalia, the devil card, right? All of these speak of themes when it comes to chaining yourself through self-deception, okay? When you deceive the self, it becomes a chain. And we've handed our willpower over. And this is what Saturn does. Think about Saturn and the structures in the worlds that be, right? The tax system, not creating a trust or not having information of a trust, not learning peace, assigning your peace outside yourself, looking at a leader, a ruler, a mentor, a role model as like your literal and only medicine, right? Like there's nothing wrong with trying to progress yourself. Understand you have to walk on your own at a time too, right? Like assigning all your power outside yourself. Mindless scrolling, okay? We've handed our willpower over to mindless scrolling on Instagram feeds, YouTube feeds, to AI generated prophecies, right? We got to be very, very careful right now with Uranus and Gemini, for example, with like us relying so much on ChatGPT or some of the other things that, you find yourself giving your literal willpower over to this AI generated prophecy. But you have to understand, it's an input feedback system, right? So there's a mirror there, right? You gotta be careful. There's flashing lights and sounds and soul noise that we've given our willpower over to, whether it's living in a city, having cars honk and horn all day, co-workers trying to control you for whatever reason because they want the promotion and ascension, whatever. There's a lot of noise that's happening on a regular basis. So we have to understand Saturn is these structures that we are involved in, whether it's a 9-to-5 job, whether it is, again, your tax bracket and system, whether it is your rent that you owe, the rat race of gaining the next promotion, right? A lot of this is noise. It's not Saturn. Saturn is about isolation and discipline. We have to understand how Saturnalia, again, the devil card energy, has allowed us to buy vanity, okay? So the Winter Soldier is the archetype for Saturn in Aries while Saturn retrogrades, right? And this is where many people, we know this, we see this. If you're on this channel, you probably really recognize this, are in a hypnotic trance. Thank you for hitting that thumbs up and likes button. And they are programmed like soldiers of an empire, right? And so what does this look like? An empire, not a government. And there is a difference, right, between an empire and a government. They're programmed by distraction. This is the key. We're programmed by distraction. There's an algorithm alchemy that has snatched our souls, okay? Where we are feeding the system we say we hate so much. And some of this happens through silence and non-action because we don't want to, as an individual, become a target. We don't want to, as an individual, lose our privilege. I'm not going to go into this crazy in this particular message, but I'm looking at it from a standpoint of, let's say, racism. Let's say you see racism, right? And you see something called like horizontal oppression with, again, I'm not going to go crazy into this part, but let's say you have a Caucasian person who sees something, who sees a cop being racist and using police brutality. And this is a white Caucasian bystander on the streets, and they see police brutality, authority, Saturn, abuse against somebody in a marginalized community. And they decide to say nothing. They decide to do nothing, right? That is them literally being complicit, saying that this is okay. This is kind of what I mean a little bit with us accepting and embracing this hypnotic trance, okay? Where there's this subliminal reprogramming of the willpower where it's like, look, like, I accept this because if I go against this, I become a target myself. and I don't want to lose my privilege. So again, an example, I'm not going to go deep into that. I've had conversations about that on another live. Go check out, I think I did a Uranus and Gemini video, and they had more about this. So the true devil is not external. This is the key with the devil card. It is the loss of agency. Aries, agency. When we mistake the stimulation or the simulation for reality. And the Matrix is a great teacher for this, right? When we mistake the simulation for reality. And we decide to never step outside that simulation, because outside of simulation, we realize where we have not faced the war within ourselves, which is why we create that battle outside, right? So when you look at it, here's the consequence of not breaking free during Neptune retrograde, Saturn retrograde. Here's the consequence. If we do not reclaim our fire, Saturn will crystallize the illusion. Saturn makes things, it builds things in solid form. It will crystallize the illusion of Neptune and Aries. And Neptune will melt our resolve. Resolve being Aries, Neptune, what can melt or dissolve something, it will melt our resolve into literal nothingness. And this is a part of the consequence with this World War III, the war on the spirit. It's not political, at least not just political. Political will actually show you a reflection of what is internal. And when we go forward, it will, this will be something where Aries will find itself like the Japanese falling on its sword, right? When you fall on your sword in this culture, like it's a symbol of shame. You know what I mean? Like you failed yourself. You failed to self-actualize. You failed to secure sovereignty. You failed to stop fighting an external war, battle outside yourself, because you haven't embraced the moments of shame where you felt bad from Chiron and Aries, which has been here for a while. Okay, we will find ourselves destroying ourselves. And this is a very key, critical, like, truth that can be complex to digest sometimes before we have ever even known who we are. So I'm asking you very kindly, like, embrace the truth of Aries, the light of Aries, the fire of Aries. Don't forsake your gifts, how magical you are, how powerful you are. Don't forsake the fact that you are a disciplined magician who can create your reality. You can build it. This is Saturn and Aries. And retrograde is going to have us go back and look at what is the reality I need to build that creates a sense of sovereignty within myself. Okay, that allows me a certain sense of internal peace, which is what Aries wants. It wants to be that gardener energy. It wants to build. It wants to grow things, right? And here's what you'll see. You'll see during this timeline, false warriors will rise to fame. What's up, Samir? It's good to see you. The truth that there is nothing outside of you is a game changer. Fact. It breaks apart the blame game. Facts. The outer space is really inner space, closer than we think. Facts. Thank you for hitting the thumbs up and the like button. So here's the thing, right? We're going to see the false warriors during this timeline. They will rise to fame. But the retrograde, if you look very clearly, you will see through this illusion, through this self-deception that allows you to support them. You have to stop supporting YouTube channels where you see through the deception, but you keep supporting them for the fact that they look like they're famous. They look like they're on top. You need to stop supporting people on Instagram who look like, right? You gotta be careful. There's certain digital deities. Okay, this is Saturnalia. Again, this is Saturn's influence. This is a devil card. Digital deities, right? Who literally harvest. Okay, they suck, they absorb their succubus energies, your belief. So it's kind of what I'm saying again. You got to be careful who and what you believe in, and who you believe in is the people you support. So even if you don't fully believe in them, but you are watching them, you're supporting them, and they're harvesting your energy. They're harvesting your fire. So when you wonder why you have no energy to act on moments of inspiration, it's because you're being harvested. Be careful who you support. Now, this is the thing we're facing again, the consequences of not breaking free, not gaining your sovereignty, okay? There's a generation who fights every battle except for the one within. So, careful when you see these activists in their day and age, right? You see ICE happening with immigrations in California, and be careful of supporting every step. I'm not saying that it's wrong, I'm not saying it's right, but you gotta be careful supporting every step. Because we may like to believe that we're supporting the immigrants and we're fighting against the rule of Trump and whoever else is doing this stuff, and we're doing the right thing. Yet and however, you be careful, because again, like I said, We have a generation of activists, people who are fighting every battle except the one within. So be careful. Are you distracting yourself? Are you avoiding an internal battle by fighting these external battles? By fighting battles for Jerusalem and Israel, for fighting battles for Palestine, fighting battles for Uzbekistan or Kakistan or Ukraine against Russia, for fighting battles against what is your cause that you have been supporting, while avoiding the battle within. Be careful, be careful, be careful. Because it's easy to want to believe that you are supporting a noble cause, fighting a noble cause. And I'm not saying you can't do both. But are you doing both? And are you doing the one inside first that helps you through the self-deception, Neptune and Aries, to actually fight the right battles? Okay. Wow, one unfollowed me for no reason. My higher self must have whooped at it. Hey, yeah. They're paying people to protest. The people feel bad for taking money. But they're struggling to pay their bills. You see what I'm saying? This is again Saturnalia. I didn't even know that. I didn't even assume that. I didn't even think that. But I feel it. And you got to also think again, like, not every payment will come in the form of money. Again, part of that is that visibility trauma. Like we spoke about. It's the title. It's the literal copy. It's the cover photo of this live, right? Visibility trauma and the consequences of it. Where I want to be seen. Some of my currency is me being able to post on my story on Facebook, post on my story on Instagram, post on my story that I'm supporting the homeless, post on my story that I'm supporting the immigrants, post on my story that I'm supporting this revolution. Remember, the revolution will be televised. The revolution will be televised. Visibility trauma. We got to see through this deception. Because some of us are taking that currency in the form of reputation, where my reputation is one who supports those who are less fortunate than me. Savior mentality of Aries. Neptune Aries in retrograde will show us the delusion of the savior mentality as well. Where yes, I may be taking some money, physical currency, greenback, okay, to pay my bills because of everything we spoke about earlier, where I am not sovereign. And because I am Aries, not sovereign, I need this income to pay myself out of survival mode. So divine, what a catch. So here's the shamanic counterspell as you hit that thumbs up and that likes button. Know thyself. This is the key of the whole message. This is the key of all the retrograde energy. Know thyself. This is the key of Aries, getting ready to shift everything. Know thyself. But it's no longer a suggestion. Knowing yourself is no longer a suggestion, okay? It is a literal spell of protection. To know thyself is not a suggestion. It is a spell of protection. When you know who you are, you cannot be deceived. It is a ritual of reclamation. The reclaiming of your soul fragments from past lives. Like I said, you can come get an angel records reading with me, and I can walk you through your Akashic records, and we can go through the soul reclamation, the soul retrieval, and puzzle together the fragmented pieces. So that is a service out there. You can come with us and join our membership. It's $33 a month. It's literally nothing. What you get back in return financially and otherwise, I promise you, is nothing. Come join us with this and get these spiritual activities, these spiritual accountabilities, the structure, the discipline. We're going to do it through community. Okay? Now, the shaman the one now must fast from information. Okay? Information overload. We have to fast from information. Okay, that's number one. We have to unplug in order to reweave the threads of fate, the threads of sovereignty, the threads of your willpower. We need to reweave it. But in order to do that, we need to fast from the information. In order to do it, we need to unplug. We need to rest. Thank you for hitting that thumbs up and the likes button. Get this video out there, share. Now, the shaman must literally practice the magical boundaries, Saturn. But again, Saturn is about the occult, okay? It's about magic. It's about what happens in isolation. It's the magic, the discipline of the magician. And Aries is an internal sign. It's not external. Don't believe the hype. Aries is an internal sign. It's not external. We have to practice the magical boundaries, but like a soldier. One who is disciplined. And a soldier does what? They clean their weapon, right? There's that end. This is literally the warrior, right? The soldier. What happens in between battles? They have to cleanse their weapon. They have a brush. They take apart their gun. They're cleansing their weapon. Old times, they have a sword. What are they doing? They're cleansing their sword. They're polishing their sword. They're sharpening their sword. Sharpening your sword. Iron sharpens iron. Okay? One of the original proverbs. Iron sharpens iron. And one way we've learned to interpret it as, I need to be around people who sharpen my abilities, my skills, my assets, my mind. Okay? If I need to nourish myself, I need to be around other people who nourishes themselves. If I need sovereignty, I need to be around other people who is sovereign themselves. So practice the magical boundaries. But again, remember, do it like the warrior who has to clean his own weapon, who's disciplined to do that. And what does that discipline get you? When you do have to go back to battle, the internal war, when you talk about World War III, which is spiritual, it is not political. At least it's not just political. The shaman now has to walk backwards. Backwards. That's the retrograde. But through the maze, okay? The maze of identity. Who do you think you are? Think you are. Versus who do you know you are? Versus who do you feel you are? Jupiter and Cancer. Cancer season still. Who do you feel you are? I feel I am. Okay. And you have to go backwards through the maze of your identity to the center. What is your center? What is your internal? Again, the whole message behind this, Aries is an internal sign. Okay. So when I look at this, what is the etheric insight? Okay. That the spirit world is speaking to us. There is no war that does not first begin, okay, as a forgotten prayer. Do you pray? And you know, I'm not saying this in the sense of praying like a Christian or praying like a Catholic, okay? This could be as simple as speaking gratitudes over every meal. You got to eat, right? Every time you eat, just speak about what you're grateful for. It might be the food. It might be your promotion. It might be the fact that, like on today, Divine Rights bought a membership for somebody on here. You may just be praying for the gratitude. Thank you. Wow, there are good people in the world who literally just bought me a membership. I don't even know them. They just brought me a membership out of the goodness of their heart. Wow. Right? So just praying over, think of prayer as gratitude. But you can also think of prayer as spell casting. Prayers are the most powerful spells that you can cast, which is why so many have been trapped through religion. You've just been praying to these digital deities now, okay? You're spinning gratitude. Oh my God, I love this star, whoever the star. I love Will Smith. I love Lady Gaga. I love Oprah, whatever these are. You see this, you see your aunts and your uncles, they be praising certain people, right? Who are stars. What are they doing? They're praising them, and they're doing what? They're allowing that star to harvest their energy through belief that they are everything, that they are literally God on earth. Meanwhile, they're just a digital deity. So the world burns because the altar of the self has been abandoned. That's why the world you see is burning on fire right now. If that's what you see. Because that's not what I see. I don't see that at all. But I can respect that it is an image. It is an image. It's not the full picture, but it's an image. It's a piece of the puzzle. So don't abandon the self. This is the medicine. This is the etheric insight. Okay, this is the shaman's call. This is the spirit speaking to the world within you. All right. Now the thing is, we must go back and we must kneel to it. Now the thing is, when I say Neo, this is more symbolically. This is more about understanding that there's a time and a place to be humble. There's a time and a place to be modest. But I'm not even going to tell you to be humble, because that within itself has been taken completely out of context. Okay? Because that is me saying lower yourself. And I'm not going to tell you to lower yourself. So this kneeling, in a sense, is symbolic. It's not to humble yourself. It's not to be overly modest. But instead, it is learning how to become a priest that tends and nurtures your own fire. That's what we need right now. Tend and nurture and nourish your own fire. So, ladies and gents, this is the consequences of visibility trauma on the Neptune retrograde, Saturn retrograde. Okay, this is a World War III, which is spiritual. Okay, it's on your sovereignty. It's on the times you felt rejected. It's on the shame you have not addressed. It's on the guilt and the regrets that you have. If you died today as a part of World War III, did you accomplish everything you wanted to? Did you do the number one thing that brought you joy? Because that's the thing that's going to bother you and burden you at a soul level the most. And you will carry that to your next life. So when I look at this retrograde, Neptune retrograde, okay, spend time really reflecting on your dream, your personal dream within the collective, for the collective, but personal to you. Saturn and Aries, retrograde. The spiritual discipline you need, the spiritual accountability, the structure to sharpen your sword like the warrior who cleans the weapon, who sharpens the weapon, who polishes the weapon so they are ready for that internal battle, so that you stop externalizing war like you see on the news. And also just look at history. How many times has this repeated? Literally between the US, between Russia, between Israel. It's been a repeat since before you were born. Thank you for hitting the thumbs up and the likes button. For Elijah, wow, one person that follows you, the higher self wants to whoop the booty. Take a moment to consider, what did that person represent? That's what you're no longer following yourself. Divine Rise, thank you for everything you've given today. Energetically, in the comments, otherwise. It's been a beautiful session, beautiful energy. It's time for me to go eat. I need to go nourish and replenish my genes, my body, my spirit. So I thank y'all for being here. Hit the thumbs up, share this video with somebody else, share it on your channels, share it on your platforms. I truly believe that this is a powerful message. I love you. I see you soon.